Retro.
Yeah, everyone, welcome back to the Late Afternoon Glass Off. As always, my name's Finn. I'm joined here by my good friend Zach Whiteman. Zach, how
Hello.
are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm going well.
You got a day off today, mate.
I do.
Tell the listeners, what do you get up to on a day off?
Well, on my days off, this time of year, the waves haven't been super kind to us. So, look, I try and surf. Today, we're recording early. I don't know if I will surf today after we finish this. It's already northerly. It's 9 a.m. It's hacking northerly, which is onshore for us. That for those that don't know, I don't know. I'd probably take the dog to the dog beach, have a little play around down there.
I'm just looking outside. That lawn's looking pretty thick and ferocious.
Yeah.
Could probably attend to that.
Good bit of a stitch up, but sure,
Yep.
I will.
How do you go on the mower and the whipper?
I couldn't tell you how to turn the thing on, so
Oof, bad start, bad start.
not ideal. So yeah, the misso's been away for a little bit. I've done. You can see. You notice a little basket of washing there.
He has folded his washing.
Yep.
I will give him that. Although opposing ideology over here,
Yeah.
we have a huge stack of dishes. Although it looks like they're clean dishes,
But you also
but they're not getting put away.
You did note on that the other day and I say other day because I have been there for a couple of days. So
Off to a good start on
Yeah.
this story.
yeah, you did note that it's actually smart in a way
It is.
because
I'll take that.
the pile has grown, so maybe not, but at the beginning, you clean them and then you just reuse them again.
Little
As
Maverick.
official dog of the podcast rolls in, Maverick. But
Chief
yeah.
of the village.
But yeah, back to the washing situation. I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a power move because you leave it there and then you just reuse it. So you don't actually like it's still stored there. It's either going to be stored there in the cabinet.
Yeah, but what about the bowl on the bottom? How do you go about getting that?
Well,
It looks like a game of Jenga.
yeah.
You take one and it could go.
Sometimes there's
quick.
some casualties.
Right.
You do lose a few plates here and there, but look, when the misso's away, the mice will play, as they say.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, on today's episode, we're gonna go into a little bit of localism. Now, we live in a pretty notoriously localized area. I feel like living here, you don't really notice it too much, and especially us because we've spent a bit of time out there. Like we kind of know everyone. But there's a few stories that get around from this area that I feel like make it pretty far and wide in Australia at least. And you hear it, like when I'm working in the surf shop, people will often come in and ask me, am I able to get the point? Like, what's it like? And you just say, just behave yourself and it'll be fine. But we're kind of accustomed to it, whereas other people aren't. Have you ever experienced any localism either here or just in other parts of Australia?
Plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. I think Australia has some iconic locations. Off the top of my head, if I think about all around the map of Australia, places like Maroubra.
Yeah.
It's got a really deep history there.
Yeah.
With the Bra Boys and whatnot. So they're probably going to have some fantastic stories. You have places like Behind the Rock Snapper.
Yeah.
It's got its crew, its core crew. Even though the joint is completely flogged out, it's still going to have that kind of bunch of crew that are good and really push that.
Yeah.
Lennox, interestingly, like you mentioned, because we live here, it's easy for us not to notice it. But so many crews say to me like, "Oh, how do you go with like the locals? Like, is it crazy?" Like, so to hear those people asking about it, it means that it's definitely there.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of cool to hear in a way. But
Snapper's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's the most overran lineup. It's so full of people when the waves are good there, and still, like there is a group of locals out the back that just hold it down. And if you're not part of that group, which we obviously aren't, and you try and get a wave up there, like you're not going to, especially behind the rock, like you're just gonna get burnt. It's a funny sort of dynamic up there, and like there is sort of a pecking order to an extent. Like you do get waves. We know enough people up there now to go out and have a chat with people and sort of you do get waves. But it's a very defined pecking order. It's like you got the crew behind the rock, and then I tend to, when I paddle out there, I just sit just to the side of the rock, just so that if someone falls off, or
You are picking up the scraps.
I'm picking up the scraps for sure.
Like it. Bottom feeding.
Bottom feeding, you got to do it. And then obviously there's about sort of, I don't know, 300 meters of just every surfing ability and craft known to man, all the way down to Greenmount, even Kira to an extent. Like,
well, when Kira's big, it has its pecking order as well.
Kira does, and Kira's probably arguably gnarlier than Snapper, because like, doesn't matter where you are in that lineup, you can get a really, really good wave. Like, that thing just barrels all the way down, and when you're out there, like, you can take off and you just get burnt. Like, doesn't matter who it is. It could be Parker, it could be Mick. They'll just be sitting there, and if they want that wave, they're going to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know.
I've had my second most notorious burn at Kira on the wave of my life.
Who was it?
I don't know. He rides for Matt Huey's.
Oh, okay.
Like a C grade kind of has been. Just like us, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
It's like the Kira version of us.
Yeah.
I remember it so clearly. It was like wave of the day. During the Quickie Pro waiting period.
Sure.
Well, I think the Quickie Pro was running maybe at Snapper.
Yep.
And it was the year when it went to Kira. So like Kira was working.
Yep.
And there was a bunch of CT guys out there. And I remember Seabass for some reason like hooting me, and because I was frothing on that. Like I saw him as I was just trying to drag my corn, just saw him like with his extra thumb on his thumb, just shackering me, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I got to a fair chunk down the point, and then this guy faded me.
Yeah.
And
right.
I remember, I think it was like Timmy Mack or someone, like on a ski gun. That was the fucking gnarliest burn I've ever seen.
True.
Like, I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Just full whitewash city, because he just took off and I just got eaten.
And that's the worst, because you've done all the hard work. You've gotten out there. You've found a wave.
I didn't drop in on anyone to get that wave.
Against all odds, you'd found a wave out there, and you'd ridden it all the way through, and then someone would just go, oh, you know what, I'm just going to get the last sort of 3 to 5 seconds of this barrel and just completely ruin your day.
I think it was like a fucking big dick power surfer move. Just fucking...
I'm just going. I don't care who you are.
Because I was a good 5 to 6 seconds into it.
Right.
Which for Kira sounds like a lot, but it can keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
There was no words exchanged. There was nothing. I just copped it on the chin, because I was like, you know what, I don't live here, so what's the fucking point of doing it? But to be fair, ever since that wave, I kind of have been letting Kira go.
You've sworn off Kira?
Pretty much.
Yeah, see, I got a soft spot for Kira. I love Kira. For whatever reason, I seem to get more waves there than I do at Snapper in those swells. But I've had some surfs at Snapper where you just come in, you almost just want to stop surfing. Like, I'm just done. Can't.
The thing about Kira is it's been flogged by jet skis too.
Yes.
And jet ski etiquette is something I wish I could just talk to everyone about collectively, because it goes out the window there. It's almost like you have to pull everyone in, like in the morning, like they must do it like Nazare when it's real big. Righto, everyone in on their skis, everyone, right, here's the rule book.
Yeah.
Because it just goes out the window.
Do it, because I actually want to hear like what your sort of, because I've never actually towed in, I've never really done step-offs before. Yeah. How does that work? Because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that won't know as well. How does that priority system work?
Well, I'm going to be a bit hypocritical here, because I've definitely used the ski when there's been people paddling.
For sure. But the etiquette side of things.
The etiquette side of things is if someone's paddling, they get right away.
Sure.
I believe Kira doesn't get big enough that you actually need to utilise the jet ski to get into the wave. No, yeah. It's more utilise the jet ski to get back to the lineup. Yeah. If you're doing step-offs or things, that's kind of silly in my opinion there. Yeah. The jet ski should only be used to, you're way down past Pizza Hut, and you've got to get back out.
For sure.
When you're doing that, you've got to beeline it out real far. And you have to be conscious of the weight, because there's crew that are just motoring back up through the lineup at 15 to 30 knots, and the weight just fucking ruins everything. Yeah. They're going real close to other skis, and I've seen days where there's like 30 skis out, and it's just chaotic. And I think our good friend Darren got a pretty good highlight reel from that swell. He turned maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but
turned a jet ski into a submarine. Just
almost twice on the same wave. But I think there's been change out of that. Someone please correct me here, but I believe skis are only permitted now if the beach is closed by the clubbies.
Yeah. Sure.
But I just don't think there's any policing of it.
No.
Crew are just going out there and going crazy, and you hear stories of people, bumping skis or going real close and things like that. I think it's pretty close to being banned, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you go from, say, Snapper, Kira to... So, like, that's a place that is completely overran, but there is still some sort of standing there in terms of people in priority. Like, the local crew, they get their fair share of waves.
Yep.
So there is still some sort of remnants of sort of control there, whereas you go from that to, say, the pass in Byron Bay.
Oh,
now,
God.
that joint is completely devoid of any form of localism. There is a few crew that will sit behind the
There's
rock.
a few crew that think they're fucking killing it, but...
Yeah, there is for sure, but, like, that wave in general, and, like, it's no discredit to anyone that lives there. Like, it's just gotten so out of hand with people riding finless boards, people, like, just people that shouldn't really be out there surfing it as well.
Well, as of, I believe, 2 years ago, by law, you must wear a leg wrap now.
You have to. Like, people check.
You will be fined if you're not wearing them. And that's come out of multiple life-threatening head injuries caused by...
Just stray longboards, basically.
Longboards, predominantly longboards. And I get it because longboarders don't like leg ropes so you can walk the board. Totally get it, but there's a time and a place, and when you've got such high density amount of people in one area, it just can't happen.
It's dumb, it's selfish. It's just like, you don't need to do it. Just you're not bigger or better than anyone else. Like, just because you want to go out there and stand on the nose, and, like, who cares? Exactly. Wear a 10-foot leggy if you got it. If you're on a 9-foot board, wear a 10-foot leggy.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, localism, it's definitely around. I've had a few.
Well, in our area, so you go from sort of Goldie, which is about an hour north from us. Then you go to the pass, which is about sort of 20 minutes north, and then you come to Lennox, which probably has in this area, as we touched on before, it's probably the most well known as a spot that has localism. I
would say we're in the top handful there in the country.
For sure. And it's good that it's almost good in a way that we have that reputation, because people come here and they know not to mess with it, basically.
Well, to build case here, WSL wanted to have a CT event at the point, and the locals, it definitely divided the community. Some were for, some were against. I don't think I even commented on it once. I don't even think I knew what was going on. I was just surfing. But that was turned down by the community. So that in itself shows that there's a pretty strong community presence here. Yeah, which I think as well, and I might sort of turn some heads here, but I actually think it was a real shame that we didn't have that event. I think it would have picked a side. Yeah, I know. Look, I'm happy to go out and say this here. I think it would have been so good for not just like the local area, because there's people that sort of think that Lennox Head is completely off the map. No one knows about it. Everyone knows Lennox Head. Like, everyone knows Lennox Head. And we sit in Byron Shadow a bit, but if you're a surfer of sort of any regard, you generally you're gonna have at least heard about Lennox Point or have seen videos of it when it's good. It's such a good wave on its day. People do know about it. I don't think it would have really had much of an impact on people coming here. People still come here on its day now. True. I think it would have been sick. Like, you would have had the local crew. You would have had like Mikey as a wild card probably. You would have had Nixie, Ryan in the girls section. I reckon they would have been red hot favourites for a wild card spot in that event. So it would have been great for them, great for their careers too. The local businesses would have thrived for the week or so that it was on, because you would have had people down here. I think it would have been a really good thing, and it's such a shame that it didn't happen. I know it's probably a bit unpopular, but I reckon it would have been sick. Logistically, would have been a nightmare to run. It would have been an absolute nightmare. You can't even get a car park on the best of days. No, and also, can you imagine some of the crew who haven't surfed here before trying to do the high tide jump off? Oh, it'd be beautiful. You would have had so much content come out of that event. Crew just having no idea. Like, the Lennox Rocks page would have been blowing up. Lennox Rocks, and we won't name who runs that because he's pretty much the Stig. If you're familiar with Top Gun, the man Top Gear. Top Gun. Top Gear. The man who runs that page is the Stig of Lennox. If you find yourself up there on a high tide and there's a masked figure, don't go near him because stay clear. Stay clear. But have you had any run-ins with localism here as a local yourself? What stories have you, any juicy goss you got for us and the listeners?
Not particularly for me. I like to think I'm pretty well behaved in the lineup. I try my
You
best
are.
to...
I have said it in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
You're probably one of the most liked community members, so I don't think that goes hand in hand with localism, in my opinion.
Yeah, like, I try not to... I have sort of had the odd go at crew. I don't tend to do it much. I've done it a handful of times in my life, and like, who am I to have a crack at someone? But if they've really like gotten under my skin, I have been known to say a few words. No, nothing too crazy though. I'm not trying to fight people. Although when I was like 14 or 15, there's a spot around here that I went and surfed, and it's not super well known, so I won't say it, but I paddled around there, and there was another local figure there who I actually hadn't really met yet. I was still fairly new. Like, I didn't really surf the point until I was sort of 12 or 13. Like, I was super late to paddle out there.
Yep.
And I sort of hadn't been made aware of this figure, and to this day, he's an absolute legend of a bloke. Like, every time I paddle out, we always have a great chat. So it's nothing against him. He just had no idea who I was, and I had no idea who he was. And I think he just assumed I was a blow-in. And he was having a really good surf over there, I think, and that's what made me want to surf out there. He was on his own, and I just paddled over, and he didn't take too kindly to it. He was having a great time on his own.
Fuck, I wouldn't either. If you're surfing solo, you got to respect that.
Yeah, so
let that person have it.
Yeah, he wasn't stoked. There was a few words exchanged. I think I paddled back over with my tail between my legs.
Ouch.
Yeah, I got pretty rattled by that. But like I said before, to this day, one of the best blokes you'll meet. I'll chat to him every time I surf. He's a legend. But yourself, I know for a fact you have had more than that happen. So talk to us. Lennox Point, what year do you reckon?
I'm not sure of the year, but the Quickie boys will know because they brought out a yellow wetsuit.
Yeah.
Which I fucking hated, but I wore it anyway.
Yeah. Good boy.
I was wearing a yellow spring suit.
Yeah.
Point was cooking, 50 crew out.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful day, running from top to bottom. I would be 13.
Yeah.
Don't even think I had a pube yet.
So probably don't name the bloke as well because
I want to.
You're pretty young in this. Like, it's not a great look for him.
Oh, look, I don't regret it that it happened.
Okay,
but
sick.
there is there's a figure in the community, pretty notorious for mouthing off and whatever. That's all I'll say. So any local probably knows who it is, and I've told this story 100 times. This individual was on a wave and about 2 sections behind, and I started to show interest in the wave because I was thinking, you know what, he's pretty deep. I don't think he's going to make it. And as I showed interest, I actually had a few other local heroes say, "Go, Zach." So I was like, "Sure, I'll go."
You had the permission of the community.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. So then I proceeded, and I took off on the wave, and he did manage to get around one of the sections, but he was probably a good 3 or 4 meters behind the whitewash, and I was on the green face.
Yep.
I've surfed the wave, and not once did we even come close to contact.
No.
Put it that way.
Yep.
I've then pulled off and paddled back out, and I see this figure paddling the opposite direction down the line. You're usually paddling up the point because there's a sweep. I see one person out of 70 paddling the other way, and I was like, "Is that for me?" It sure was. He's come over this at this time. He was, I don't know, 40, and I would say 100 kilos and stocky.
Yep.
I am pre-pube, 13, 40 kilos.
Dripping wet.
Yeah. And he has come over and grabbed the back of my head, pulled my hair, and put me underwater for a good... It felt like a minute, but let's be real, it was about 3 seconds.
Right.
He put my head underwater.
Yeah.
I was in shock, and then he went on a bit of a rant about dropping in and whatever, and I actually was just a bit scared, so I was saying, you know, fuck you, fuck this, fuck that, whatever. And I paddled in, and my dad was on the rocks. I paddled in crying, as you do when a fucking adult drowns you. And I paddled in, and my dad's fucking love him to death. But he's an old school fella.
Yeah.
He goes, "I saw it. Yep, nah, you're not wrong, but go out there and fucking cop it on the chin and apologise. And I went, fuck, that's not what the answer I wanted from my dad. I wanted him to go out and flog him. But he said, look, doesn't matter. We live in a small community.
Yep.
You have to go fix this right fucking now. And I was like, no, Dad, I don't want to. And he's like, mate, fucking, I'm going to walk you out there and we're going to do it. Like, well, he was going to walk up to the jump off point and I would obviously paddle out.
Yeah.
Upon walking around, this individual was seen dropping in on another local. And my dad goes, is that him? And I went, yeah. And he goes, oh, fuck him.
Yeah, there you go.
But that story, yeah, it went around like wildfire.
Well, there's a couple like that. We won't touch on one of them.
I just want to say, though, like, I truly believe I was not in the wrong.
Where you
to
took
this
off.
day, fucking 100%. He was just angry at he'd finally got a wave and obviously not made this section. It was a great wave. Yeah. And he was angry at that, and then he's attached that anger to me because I was there.
First person he saw, he went, you.
Yeah, but what I will say, I was probably a little fucking turd burglar back then. Like, fresh, quickie fucking sticker on the nose. One of the only sponsored groms in the area my age. Fuck, so I was probably a turd. But in that case, wasn't my fault.
No, I'm with you. That sounds about right. And I've seen some, like, not local on local sort of abuse, you might call it, but I've seen some abuse to some non-locals for sure. Like,
fucking oath.
I've seen fins punched out of surfboards.
I have seen fins being laid level on a surfboard.
Yeah, fins punched out. I've seen actual, like, punch-ons in the water. I've seen someone actually get their head punched in out the back. And it was like, it wasn't even like he'd done anything wrong. He just got in the way of someone when they were paddling for the wave. Similar, I think a similar situation to you where he was angry at the session.
Yeah.
And he just went, I've just seen you. You're in my way there. I'm going to blame you for that.
Yeah.
And he just paddled in and just started pretty much just punching him in the head. It was crazy.
I've got some great advice that I got from my father about Lennox Point.
What's that?
And fights.
What's that?
In the movies, there's like a moment in the movie where they're like, son, I'm going to tell you something. This was me. That was my moment with my dad.
Yeah, right.
He goes, if you ever get on in a fight at the point, make sure it's not on a hill. And I was like, I don't know what that means. This was years ago, before I was alive. And he said, we had words with some dude out the point and we went in and he was on the higher side of the hill and he kicked him in the fucking head. And my dad's not small. Like, he's tall. He's 6'1". But the guy was up on a hill and it's quite steep there at the bottom near the hut.
So he had the higher ground, you might say.
And he just fucking fly kicked him in the head. And he just got flogged and he goes, son, if you're ever going to have a fight, make sure it's on level ground. Yeah. I got fly kicked in the head. So thank you, Father. I'll take that. But
good advice for life.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten it anytime soon.
Sweet. But
yeah, the Lennox Point, I've had a couple. I had one that sticks out. I think it was me doing the wrongdoing here. I was surfing that spot you were alluding to before. 3 of us out. Yeah. So I didn't fucking ruin someone's day like you. Went out and it was my mate, an old fella and myself. And the old fella, he kind of took one off me and I said to my mate, fuck, that guy's a cunt. And he goes, that's my dad. And I was like, oh, sorry. That still haunts me to this day because it was just so like the feedback was immediate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, whoops.
And what do you say there? You go, oh, no, he's not actually. He's a good bloke.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah, no, I'm only kidding. It's one of those ones. But for me, the whole localism thing, I don't back it anymore.
Do you think it's silly?
I think it's silly because the silly part is these people, these individuals, when they're out in the water, they can be ruthless.
Yep.
In the sense that they will drop in on a wave of the day knowing that person has waited fucking donkey's years for it.
Yep.
Purely because they don't live here.
Yep.
I'm going. That sense of entitlement.
Yep.
And then they'll tell them to get fucked on top of that, which is just the cream on top, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But these individuals, I feel like if you were at home and your lawnmower was broken, you called them up and said, mate, can you come mow my lawn? They'd be like, yeah. Like, what I'm trying to sound silly. On land, these people are saints.
Yep.
They have your back. They're community members. They will, if you're short $10, they'll fucking give you 50.
Legend blokes, eh?
But then when they paddle out, what fucking happens?
Yeah.
They have a duck dive and just go, fuck the world. I don't know. I don't understand it. And I get needs to be a pecking order, or I don't think a pecking order is the right word. There needs to be respect. But just going out and blatantly burning fuckers is just weird.
I think the caveat to that is that, yeah, you need to have some sort of audit, or else you do end up like the past. You end up like those venues where there's just no order, it's unsafe. What they're doing in a very extreme manner is actually sort of keeping the lineup safe to an extent. You don't want people out there that sort of shouldn't be out there, can't surf properly, can't do a proper turn, plowing down the face of like 3-4 footer, and there's someone in the way to run.
But there's an element to catch and coach that.
For sure, and like, you can take it too far as well. So there's definitely you can go both ways. You can have none and it doesn't work, or you can have too much and it's ineffective because it does the opposite. It becomes unsafe for crew because then you have people fighting and things like that. It's hard to find that balance.
Yeah,
you do need a few authority figures out there. I do think
most definitely,
which we have, but how far do you go?
Yeah, it's stern words. It's not, I'm gonna fucking punch you in the face several times.
Yes,
in my opinion,
for sure.
And if you want to do that, who am I to say don't do it? But if you are someone like that and you travel, fucking God help you.
Yeah.
As soon as you leave that area, you get nothing.
Yeah. You
can't double dip, in my opinion.
For sure.
If you're just a homegrown local who doesn't go on trips often and you want to do that, fuck, I'm not gonna think anything of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're taking that way of thinking outside of your local area, you can get fucked.
Well, Carl Rothman, and I'll name him because he won't watch this, but he came out on Instagram the other year and said, basically, if you're not from here, I don't recognise you at Pipe, I'm going to burn you this year. Sweet. Do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
When you come to Lennox Point, which he did, don't expect crew to be giving you waves or places. Not
he commented on the localism, I'm pretty sure.
Well, like, what does he expect? Like, you don't come out on Instagram and go, if I don't recognise you this year, I will be burning you. Like, sick, do that at your home, but then don't expect a separate treatment when you come to someone else's home because you're gonna have this, like, you're gonna have the same thing happen to you.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think he posted a vlog and he did comment on it, and it's just like, you can't have it both ways. You can't rule your lineup and then come and rule someone else's lineup. I've got
to be careful here, but another Hawaiian figure did that at a Newcastle QS Pro Junior. It was same event, Pro Junior and a QS. Zeke Lau. I just remember it. It was just like, he was ruthless. It was 1 foot fucking onshore.
Yeah.
And he was just everywhere. And everyone was just like, everyone said the same thing. What the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah.
So you'd have to look.
And
I'll reason with them.
Yeah.
When you've got pipe and you're surfing that all the time, surely that is going to drip feed into your other sessions somewhere else. But fuck, got to work on it pretty quickly, in my opinion.
For sure. Well, and Zeke's had a couple. He was the one with Chippo at WA, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
So maybe it's a sign of the man himself. But like I said, I don't know him personally, so I won't comment too much on that.
He blew up I was staying at the Quickie House, and one weird thing was Lewis. Lewis used to ride for Quick back in the day. Lewis Diaz?
Okay, don't know.
I think that's him.
I think he's more your vintage.
Yeah. He was getting dressed with a towel. You know, common, take your board shorts off.
Yeah.
And you put the towel around you and you drop your dacks and you put your new ones on. He was doing that at the Quickie House on the deck, and Zeke was there with his missus, and Zeke wasn't staying at the Quickie House, but we were. And he fucking berated him, going, "Don't be so disrespectful, there's women here." And Lewis's face was just like, I'm not nude. Like, he felt like that was a common thing, and Lewis, it is, mate.
Yeah.
He fucking just went off his lid.
So Zeke, what you're saying is Zeke doesn't get changed in a towel. He actually goes and locks himself
in a restroom.
In a restroom.
Maybe.
Time.
I was shocked. I was like, what the fuck just happened here?
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway, so bit of background on Zeke.
Yeah,
anyway.
so that localism thing as well sort of trends itself towards when you're picking a surf destination to go on holiday. Like, I don't know whether that's necessarily a factor, but you're looking for a place that's not going to be too crowded. You're not going to have too many issues finding waves.
Yep.
Where, like, in 2025, where do you escape that? Where do you go on a surf trip and go and have a really nice experience with everyone. Obviously, you do have to behave yourself when you go overseas. It's not saying you go and have a free run of a lineup, but where are you going to go and it's not going to be too crowded. You're not going to have too much sort of Hawaiian sort of etiquette being enforced. Hit me.
Legian Beach, Bali.
Sure.
No, I'm fucking kidding. It's tricky. I truly believe there is so much untouched gold out there.
Yep.
You just have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be okay with down days.
Yep.
You have to be okay to spend a little bit of money and not get reward immediately.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to put in a little bit of time and effort there.
Or spend a bit extra and strike mission it. In
Correct.
all of these cases, like just go that little bit extra. But where are you thinking?
There's so much in the Pacific.
Yep.
That doesn't get much attention, and there is reasons for that. It's fickle.
Yep.
So again, strike missions probably fits well, but I recently went to Samoa and had an incredible experience.
Yep.
And there is no locals there.
No.
They don't surf. The locals are expats.
Yes.
The true locals, they don't surf because surfing there is seen as disrespectful because it's an individual sport, not like football or team sport.
True.
So what it kind of represents is you're going out and getting something for you, but no one else. So in the morning there, the men, predominantly men, will go out and fish.
Yep.
And they provide for their family. So no one surfs in the morning, regardless.
Yeah.
Well, locals.
Mm-hmm.
They might, look, I'm not saying the whole of no one surfs, but 90% of them don't surf.
Yep.
And they engage in team sports because obviously the Pacific Islands have a very strong representation in sports like NRL, Union, and those sports pay handsomely.
Well, and they're also, a lot of the time, they're the best players.
Yeah. So those sports pay handsomely, and then they bring that money back to their families in the islands, and that is seen as like you're the provider.
Yeah.
Whereas surfing, that hasn't happened.
You're a bum, basically.
You're pretty much going out there and you're getting your own reward. How can you share that reward?
Okay.
So that's kind of how it's come about in those islands, and that's why, like Tonga, I'm guessing that's the same kind of ideology there. Cook Islands, Fiji, Vanuatu, all that. Fiji maybe not as much, but still definitely the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of untapped potential there, and I don't feel like I'm blowing it out because some people will hear this and go, "Oh, sick," and they'll go on Webjet or whatever, and they'll look at it and they'll forget about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just got to be prepared that it can be flat, windy, and then it can have moments of gold.
Yeah, and like those islands as well, you talked about the untapped potential of them. Like, you saw Nate Florence posted a pretty well-watched vlog last year where he pulled up at the Solomons. I don't know whereabouts in the Solomon Islands, but he pulled up there and found this just freight training right-hander that looked like pretty much reverse Chopu. Like, it was absolutely insane.
Gone below sea level.
Yeah, and like just pulled up so many different reef passes in all of these islands. Like, I don't know if you ever do this. It might just be some weird thing that I do, but I'll sit on Google Maps sometimes and just trawl through all the islands and just look at different setups where, like, not that I'll ever go there because I don't have an adventurous bone in my body, but like to just see where they are and like going, oh, in this swell direction, like that could be cooking, you know, like it's an interesting exercise to do. And like, if you're like Nathan and John and you're happy to, well, I mean, happy if you've got the means to buy yourself a catamaran and go sailing.
It's expensive.
Yeah. Like, you could go and just get the craziest waves and there'd be not a person in sight. It's just insane. So those areas are, completely untapped. I think there's going to be some, especially now that John's having his year off, I reckon you'll see some more of that. Just going traveling around the Pacific and finding those places.
Yeah, if you're not watching that O'Neill series, Maps to Nowhere, then you're really kidding yourself. Yeah. I love that series is there because it's really showing that if you are willing to do what you're doing and go on Google Maps and do the background info, then you can be rewarded.
For sure.
There's so much out there. It's something like 2/3 of the ocean. We don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So it would be naive to think that we have even found half of the world-class waves that are out there.
There'd be so many more. And like you just brought up O'Neill, like the big brands, are they wanting to, is that something that's valuable to them, like investing money to send people to find new waves? Is that something that...
Yeah, for sure. Depends on the surfer, depends on the brand.
Yeah.
Obviously, some brands pivot more towards smaller niche athletes. Some your global brands will obviously want to diversify in as many markets as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just depends on the surfer.
Yeah, okay. And like, so yeah, it kind of leads us into like sponsorships in 2025. So like, we're in a digital age now where basically you're relying on clicks, and that your success is essentially measured in clicks on Instagram, on YouTube, on whatever. So when you're like, you mentioned in a previous episode, you've got to bring value to the brand in that manner. So how are you like, when you're talking to athletes, you're taking that in mind? Are you talking to athletes? Are you talking to managers? Like what's the most common source of...
I would say it depends on the athlete's age and salary.
Right.
For example, a 12-year-old not on any financial incentive, there's probably no real need for a middleman.
Right.
That middleman is there purely to get the best out of the athlete to get the best out of the brands or opportunities
the best deal
for the athlete.
Yeah.
12-year-olds, in my opinion, not really, shouldn't be the focus. They should just be out there trying to have fun.
Well, for sure.
So obviously, as someone gets older and progresses further into their surfing career, those conversations start to come up.
Right, for sure. So, and like for you as like a team manager, if someone came to you and was like, oh, like this is what I got in mind, like I'd really want to go traveling. Like, is that something that you might find valuable as a brand? Like, do you think it's something?
Yeah. Most definitely. As long as there's a reward there. If it's going to be something that's been done 100 times, then probably not.
Sure.
People love creativity. It's a big thing in this world. As we move into a digital world, there's going to be even more creativity.
For sure. Yeah.
I think it was Charles Dickinson said, when it's the worst time ever, it means it's the best time ever as well, because you've got the start of the old and the start of the new in parallel.
Yeah.
I truly think you hear, fuck, the golden ages are over. Well, the next one's starting.
Yeah, the new golden age is here.
If you're someone out there and you're young, I would be leaning into that.
Yeah.
Finding out what is building traction, and obviously digital marketing of yourself will be that way. That it looks like at this point.
Yeah, so because like that, circling back to the O'Neill series that they do, that pretty well broke the internet. That session that they had, I don't even know. Obviously, that's the idea of it. You don't know where the wave is. Although my girlfriend's brother believes he's found it, but
yeah, unfortunately for Kai, he put in hours and hours of research.
Yeah.
Little did he know that comment 2 on Surfline's post was the GPS coordinates. So I love what he did, but
love the effort. Someone
just went copy paste, there it is.
Yeah.
And there's actually surf reports for waves that are very close by.
Right.
So it's there, but it's just been under our noses.
And it needs a lot of the right conditions, right, to get it going.
Oh, it needs the stars to align.
Yeah, sure.
But that has been surfed many times before.
Yeah.
By famous surfers.
Right.
Just hasn't been documented like that.
Sure, okay. So
I kind of love that they kept it quiet.
Yeah, well, that's it. They didn't name the location, and that is a way to get clicks, as we spoke on before. You go and rock up at a new destination and it's cooking. People are going to want to see it. You saw it with Mick Fanning as well when he found the snake, I think he called it.
Yeah.
That was the same thing. And then to throw it even further back, Skeleton Bay. Like, everyone was sending their athletes there to just go and surf this freak of a wave.
Honestly, I don't think the companies are doing that.
You think
those guys are really good at finding what works.
Right.
And they're kind of saying to their, look, this is speculation, I'm not them. But they're probably saying, I'm going to do this. What do you think? So,
and what they might go to their brand, whoever sponsors them, and be like, this is what I'm doing. Do you want to fund it? Do you want to throw some money my way to fund it?
100%. And that's just in a pitch.
Yes.
I think that's what the next gen should be doing, is thinking outside the box and saying, this is what I'm going to do, rather than wait for these massive brands to provide the spotlight.
So rather than being told what to do, you're being upfront and you're going to the brand going, this is what I think.
Sell it to us.
Yeah.
We're a business at the end of the day. Yeah. It's a sales pitch.
And you're an individual too. You're thinking, like, you're not necessarily thinking the same. It might have been something you hadn't thought of. You're like, oh, that actually could be pretty sick. Like,
most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot there that hasn't been purely tapped into just yet. So if I was a young Grom or guy, girl, whatever, I would just be kind of following what's getting traction, what's not, and finding your own niche is super important.
Definitely, yeah, which we've touched on before. We might leave it there. Zach's got a meeting to go to shortly, so this has just been a little bit of a general episode, just on a few of our experiences. And
unfortunately, we don't live off the podcast.
No,
it makes us donuts.
But yeah, it's good. Like I've said it before, I like picking Zach's brain because I'm not involved in that world. So I have questions and I ask them, hoping that you guys have the same questions too. Because there's a lot of stuff that I think of, I have no idea, and this is my man to answer them for me. So why not do it in front of a camera and with a mic on?
Yeah, we can deep dive into it later on as well.
Absolutely. We'll be touching more and more on it. Thanks again for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.